What if two men, separated by 130 years and opposite ends of the world, independently wrote the same rulebook for power? A Florentine diplomat and a masterless samurai, different languages, different centuries, different everything. Yet their most dangerous books tell the same story. In 1513, Machiavelli was tortured, exiled, and stripped of everything. And in that silence, he wrote The Prince. In 1643, Musashi retreated into the Reagan cave at 60 years old, with no lord and no allies, and began writing the Book of Five Rings, with 2 years left to live. Neither book was written from comfort. Both came from men who had stared into the void and decided it had something worth saying. The first clue connecting them is adaptability. The shared belief that rigidity, not the enemy, is what truly destroys you. Machiavelli said, "Be the fox and the lion." Musashi said, "Be like water." Different images, but one conclusion. The man who cannot adapt does not survive. The second clue is self-reliance. Both men believe that borrowed power is no power at all. Machiavelli trusted only his own virtù, and Musashi proved the point by carving a sword from a rowing oar and defeating the greatest duelist of his era with a single stroke. The third clue is fear. Not as a blunt weapon, but as a precise science both men studied with remarkable care. Machiavelli said, "Be feared, but never hated." Musashi crushed opponents psychologically before a single blade was drawn. Different arenas, identical science. The fourth clue is the most surprising. Two men famous for decisive action both wrote extensively about knowing when not to act. Machiavelli warned against cruelty applied in slow drips, and Musashi said a half-committed strike is worse than none. Both understood that timing is everything. Now here is the paradox at the heart of this case. One man was condemned by the church, the other was worshipped as a saint, yet both arrived at the exact same conclusions. Machiavelli was banned, Musashi was revered as a kensei. And the fact that the world treated them so differently makes their identical philosophy all the more striking. Machiavelli called it virtù, Musashi called it the way, both pointing to the same dangerous freedom. The man who no longer needs anyone's approval. The most dangerous man is flexible where others are rigid, self-reliant where others depend, psychologically dominant before a move is made, and precise in his timing. One scratched revelations onto parchment by candlelight, the other carved his final philosophy into a cave wall. Both called dangerous by the world, both simply called themselves prepared. The same principle that defined Machiavelli and Musashi applies today. What endures is never what is performed, but what is genuinely felt. Guttflow has spent years studying the gap between content that vanishes on a scroll and content that lives permanently in the memory of everyone who encounters it. The most dangerous competitor your brand will ever face is not the one with the biggest budget. It is the one with the clearest, most honest story. And that story starts with knowing exactly who you are.